Hey guys, welcome back to Xraised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. This is your online show where we dive deep into the minds of industry leaders, founders, and innovators shaping the future. Today, we have an absolute treat for you. Our guest is someone whose reputation precedes him, especially in the realm of digital transformation and escalation management. He's often referred to as the man who diffuses bombs in the tech world. With a remarkable track record in SAP S/4HANA problem IT programs and a knack for turning high-stakes situations into success stories, he's also a seasoned educator and a sought-after conference speaker. That's why it's a pleasure to welcome Ashley Saltzman. Hello, Ashley. I'm excited to have you on the show. So let's begin.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miles.
You're welcome. So, Ashley, your journey to becoming a global expert is in untangling complex digital transformation challenging is very fascinating. Sorry, challenges is very fascinating for me. So, can you share a bit about what led you to specialize in S/4HANA transformation programs and escalation management?
Absolutely. Um, Look, it's interesting. The way you describe what I do is spot on. And I use the words untangling commercial and delivery challenges because that really is the essence of what I do, which is to get involved in situations that get into trouble, where things are going wrong in a program, and try to pull apart not only the mess that is becoming created or has been created, but also to try and understand how did we get into this mess in the first place, because you've got to do that to then be able to start to sort things out and actually resolve some of the challenges that you've experienced. I think it started really, look, throughout my career, it's quite interesting, but I didn't know this until as you progress through your career and then you look back, you realize that
Mm-hmm.
I had a tendency to always get involved in problem solving situations. So I was always very willing to get involved into things that went wrong because I always felt that I had this skill in terms of keeping calm and being
Uh-huh.
able to analyze a situation, pull it apart, understand where things started in terms of where the problems began, and then start to resolve them. And it wasn't really my expertise that I determined that. It was others who told me that I was quite good at it. So, I mean, I've been in the technology industry for, 30 plus years. And in the beginning, the very beginning, I used to implement network systems back in the day. And so I was very good at understanding what to do to make sure we didn't get into trouble. As time went on, I got involved in more complex systems. And then I found that the roles that I was getting involved in or asked to be involved in always had this element of a customer being upset at the vendor and needing to understand what was the vendor going to do to sort it out. And I'd be sent in there to sort it out in that respect. And it's quite interesting because I was talking to someone just a couple of days ago who wanted to understand what I do for a job. And when I explained it, she said, okay, so you're the guy that gets parachuted in to problem situations and then you start to solve them. And I
Uh-huh.
thought that was a really good analogy because it really, everybody can understand what that means when you just get dumped into a situation that, or in a fire, and basically you start to put the fire out. And that is what I've
Uh-huh.
always done. I did that. I suppose my first real job was at SAP, at IBM, I should say, which was before SAP, when I was actually approached to work in the dispute resolution team there, which was to deal with executive complaints and executive level disputes with
Mm-hmm.
IBM, and to basically resolve those because they were obviously heightened and they needed someone to take a calm approach to sort them out. That was the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning. That was in 2006. And that was the first taste I had of being in a full-time role where 100% of the time I was just doing disputes and complaints every day. And
Wow.
that was my entree to knowing that escalation management and dispute resolution was my thing.
Uh-huh.
Then, when I left IBM and went to SAP, they created a role for me specifically to handle the transformation programs that they were implementing and the problems that they were experiencing, which is where that untangling of the commercial and delivery challenges really began. And that's what I do today.
It's pretty so Ashley, you're pretty much in trouble every day.
Yeah, pretty,
So
pretty, pretty well. And the fun thing for me, well, actually, I find it fun, which probably some people might find strange, but I really
I
do enjoy
know.
the thrill of knowing that I can resolve it. And I suppose that's one of the rewards that I get is that I know that I have this expertise that not everybody has. Most people
Mm-hmm.
in that situation have a vested interest in what's going wrong. You know, it's on their watch. So
Mm-hmm.
they get very concerned about the fact that they might be blamed or that someone's going to tell them that they're responsible for the mess that's been created, especially when it fails. So I do pride myself on the fact that I do have this expertise, and it's my role to take that pressure off the people who don't have those skills to resolve these issues, and that it's something that I can do.
It's amazing, Ashley, how you thrive in chaos. It's for sure
Yeah,
one of the situations most people wouldn't want to be in. But it
I like
seems
that.
like you're
Yes.
born for this role, Ashley. So speaking
I
of
like
which,
those words you've chosen. I thrive with chaos. I'll have to write that down. I
yeah,
really like that.
you do. I mean, I'm surprised that you find passion in trouble. You find happiness of resolving troubles
Yeah.
and problems. So speaking of which, can you share a maybe memorable instance where you had to diffuse a particularly challenging bomb in your career and what the outcome was?
Absolutely. Um, Look, it's when I started at SAP, it was quite interesting because they created a job for me that they didn't have before, and it was with the person who was in charge of SAP at the time had a very specific focus in mind because he knew the problems that they'd been dealing with before he met me.
Mm-hmm.
They created this role, and but in the first few months of that role, there wasn't anything real that I had to do. I just had to really give advice to how to avoid things getting into trouble, how to deal with situations before they'd really blown up. So there was really just a very calming type of involvement that I had up to that time. And then there was one situation that really started to go wrong. And in Australia, it was. I mean, I did my work outside of Australia, but this happened to be in Australia. And this was 3 months into my time at SAP. And I suppose it was the turning point for me. And it certainly gave me a very high profile in the company because this was a situation where it was a major transformation program that SAP was delivering. There was a third party that was also delivering another part of it. And things started to get into trouble and became a bit messy. And it started off with the customer that didn't quite understand what they'd signed up for. They didn't quite understand what their role was and what the responsibilities were that they had taken on. And they were expecting that SAP was going to deliver those components where SAP was very clear that that wasn't their responsibility. So you can
Mm-hmm.
already tell that there's a misalignment because a customer's sitting there saying, well, when are you going to do these things? And SAP would say, but that's not for us to do. That's for you to do. And the customer response was, well, we can't do those things. We either haven't got the expertise, we don't have the resources, or we don't have the availability of anyone to do that. And by the way, when did we even sign up for that? We thought you were doing it. And it becomes a mess very, very quickly. In this
Uh-huh.
particular situation, I was sent there to, it was interstate from where I live, and I went there to deal with it. And over 3 months, I was there for 3 months straight and was able to sort things out so that the program could actually take off and they could really start the deployment. 12 months later, things blew up again because, again, this customer didn't have the maturity to understand what the transformation program was really doing for their business. And SAP was struggling to get the alignment and struggling with communication. And as a result, I got asked to go back in because I'd built a trusted relationship with them in the 3 months that I'd been there. And they felt that I understood them and I was able to walk that line of what I needed SAP to know, what the executives and stakeholders in the customer needed to know. And there was I suppose I say that, I played a conduit role where I was working between parties and between
Mm-hmm.
organizations to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that everybody was aligned, everybody understood and was informed, and that
Uh-huh.
if there was any kind of spot fires, that I could put them out um, immediately so that they didn't blow up to become, a proper fire, if I can use that
Uh-huh.
analogy. And
Uh-huh.
but interestingly enough, the solution was falling apart because the customer was making changes on the fly. They didn't understand what they were doing. And in short, their nervousness and the anxiety that they had for this program wasn't going the way they thought, they cancelled the project.
Mm.
And it had about
Okay.
9 months to go. Now, projects don't get cancelled that easily. So for a customer to cancel a project was was really significant. The
Mm-hmm.
problem was that they then felt that they had been, they didn't think that things were done well. And so they took legal action against SAP. And without going into too much detail, we then had to prepare for a court case and defend
Uh-huh.
our position because we felt the customer had prematurely put an end to the project because of their nervousness and uncomfortable with the fact that they were delivering something of large scale. And it went right through to mediation. And in the end, the customer realized that they had got it wrong. SAP was actually
Uh-huh.
doing a pretty good job, but they had panicked. And we sorted it out of court in the mediation. But it was a fascinating experience to go through. Not great for
Uh-huh. It's
people
very intense, Ashley.
absolutely. And people in executive roles who felt responsible because it was on their watch, they obviously weren't comfortable with it. But in terms of my role and the role that I had to play, I got to see everything, and it was hugely challenging. And I had to be an advisor in all facets of it. So during the
Mm-hmm.
project when it was going wrong, then when the customer made the decision to cancel the project, which was so rare, I then had to deal with the fallout of that, and then we had to deal with the defense of what did we actually do, and it actually ties in with some of my strong principles that I learned from that, which is what are the key things that you need to do and know about to get projects right, and what are the things that
Mm-hmm.
can fail if you get them wrong. So, really interesting.
Yeah, so intense as I've said, and you probably didn't get much sleep during that period, Ashley.
Well,
But
the o- the only one thing I can say is that because I didn't cause the problem, it's a lot
uh-huh.
easier not to feel responsible, but
Yeah.
you still have a responsibility to want to sort it out. And you want to look up, the one thing that was really interesting, and this is my KPI. The
Uh-huh.
KPI that I set for myself is that the companies still want to have a long-term relationship. Just
Uh-huh.
because they've fallen out with the project doesn't mean that they're going to part ways and go off to separate ways to actually find different solutions for their organizations. Sometimes, and in the case of SAP customers, they want to stay as customers long term. So what you've got to
Mm-hmm.
do is sort this situation out, but not break the relationship so that it
Yeah.
actually has an ongoing future. And that's quite a hard task, but that's what I had to do.
You're like the Cupid for both parties because you see the bigger picture, you see both sides, you weigh them in, and you untangle whatever challenge that they have. So it's really inspiring, and I need the kindness that you have. now, now, Ashley, I heard from a little bird that you also run an international masterclass program called Mastering Customer Escalations. Could you tell
I
us
do.
what some of the key lessons you teach in this program and how have they evolved over the years?
Okay. Look, thanks for being aware of that. I do run this masterclass program, and it started. I created the program in 2019 at SAP when
Mm-hmm.
I saw that everybody, I mean everybody, who is in a customer-facing role, doesn't matter if they are an account executive, a customer success manager, they could be a delivery executive, they might just be not just a project manager or some part of a project team. It doesn't matter what
Uh-huh.
role it is, it doesn't matter how senior or junior. The reality is that when you are involved in a customer facing role, you've got to deal with your customer. And sometimes you're going to deal with the ups and downs of that relationship. You're going to deal with situations that have agitated them. Somebody might have said something to them that didn't sit comfortably. And there might be other situations where you've created a problem that you didn't even expect or realize, and you've got to deal with the reaction. So escalations, or I'll put it this way, escalation management is not waiting for things to blow up and then deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
Escalation management is to deal with situations when they occur and keep them under control to stop them from becoming escalations.
Uh-huh.
So I created the masterclass because what I found was that people in these customer facing roles weren't very good at dealing with situations when they were problematic. They didn't know how
Mm-hmm.
to. They didn't know how to have tough conversations. They didn't know how to deal with the emotional side of a customer or themselves. In other words, how
Mm-hmm.
to stay calm, how to construct a meeting or a conversation to get the outcome that they're looking for without inflaming the situation. And if the
Yes.
situation does get inflamed, how do I bring the situation back down to a calm level
Mm-hmm.
to keep it professional and achieve the outcome that I set out in the first place? So the
Mm-hmm.
masterclass program is to teach people in customer-facing roles all of those skills. And
Mhm.
I do that through a learning session, which is when I share my insights, and it's interactive. It's a half day where I share my insights on um, situations that I've been in, situations that they might be in. So I get people on, in these sessions to share some of their experiences, and they'll ask me how could they have handled things better or differently to get a better outcome. And I'll explain what I would have done. I'll ask them certain questions about what they think, about the situation before and after, and what they thought when they reflected on it. And it's a really good learning curve for everybody who needs to understand how to handle things better to keep things positive, even in the worst circumstances. And the good thing about the masterclass is that there's also a role play element to it as well, where I will educate or train the teams that are involved in the role play on how to conduct themselves and what I'm looking for and what skills they need to bring on to actually take or to bring into the role playing. And I
Mhm.
set the role playing up like a mock boardroom. So they're sitting around a boardroom table. There's people representing a customer. There's people representing a vendor, and they sit there with a joint issue, an issue that's gone into dispute, and they sit there and they actually debate it and discuss it and try and achieve an outcome from it. And it's
Mhm.
real. It's as real as it comes in a mock environment. And of course, the best environment to learn on is not in a live environment with your customer. It's to take it behind closed doors in what is as close to a live environment as you can, and learning the skills that you need. And look, I've had fantastic results from it. I still run that program at the SAP Global Academy in San Ramon in California.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a big part of what they do, because it's teaching their emerging executives who are all customer facing how to handle those situations before they have to deal with them in real life. And they get a real buzz out of it, and I absolutely love it. It's been one of those real rewards for me.
It's like anger management program. If only I were in SAP, Ashley, or maybe using it, I would definitely sign up for the masterclass.
Look, absolutely. And it's not just for SAP, for the record. I,
Ah,
le-
yeah.
I started teaching that at SAP because the company saw there was a need for it, and it was a good skill for everyone to learn. I now obviously deliver it outside of SAP now that I'm on working for myself, and other companies who have customer facing teams in technology, whether they are vendors, whether they are consulting firms, anyone that is basically delivering a service or a project or a large program of work, where they have their teams that need to learn these skills because they feel that they're not doing it well enough, or they could always improve. I think everyone can always improve.
Uh-huh. Of course. It's incredible. It's just incredible, Ashley, how you adapted your teaching methods. And it's impressive how you keep calm. And, it affects the whole company because it involves customer service, the IT team. You're right. Anyone is a frontliner. And if they get to your masterclass, it would be great for the company and SAP as well, or whichever they're dealing with. So as we
Yeah.
speak about communication, Ashley, how do you manage alignment between executive management, project teams, and business units to ensure successful outcomes?
Yeah. Look, it's a good question. That's probably the key skill that I think that I bring to the table, because
Mm-hmm.
what I've identified is that all of these teams, so you've got the stakeholders and executives, you've got the project team that's delivering the project, you've got the business unit that is getting the benefits of the solution that's being implemented. And what you find is, and there might be third parties as well doing other parts that are, where their expert skills are required, and it slots into a bigger program of work. And what you find is that very often, that just the nature of people, I suppose, is that sometimes
Mm-hmm.
teams become so engrossed in what they're doing, they forget about the other parties, or there's not enough communication and information sharing between different parties. So therefore, one party is being left out of the picture, and they don't know what's going on, and they can actually feel left out, and they can become agitated, or they
Mm-hmm.
feel left out and they're not making decisions when the timing is needed, and then they're finding out late, and they're being put under pressure because they have to make a decision in a hurry when it needs more time, and they don't appreciate it. So they get upset at the project team, and the project team says, but it's not our fault. We asked you months ago and somebody didn't tell you. And so there's all these things that can creep into a project delivery, that can lead to misalignment, poor
Mm-hmm.
communication, and it spills over into the success of the project and how happy parties are. So
Mm-hmm.
I walk that line in what I
Yeah.
do, and I get brought into
Mm-hmm.
situations all the time to actually play that role. So it could be delivery challenges, which is what I just described, but it could also be commercial challenges. And I say that from a point of view that it could be we didn't understand what the contract meant when we said we would do this part, or
Mm-hmm.
we didn't really know what we'd signed up for and we can't deliver it. And then you've got to work out, well, how are you going to deliver it? Because it needs to be delivered by someone or one of the parties, and it can't be left out. So, how are we going to deal with that challenge? It can also deal with cultural differences, language barriers and language differences. And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about between countries.
I mean, a
I'm
lot of
talking about
factors.
I'm talking about technical speak versus executive speak. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about speaking on a business level. If I go and talk to a CFO and the CFO looks at a project and is only concerned about one thing, that the budget is blown out, they're only interested in the money.
Uh-huh.
They can't talk technical. They don't understand why. The executives and
Yeah.
the stakeholders, they don't want to know the detail. They just want to know who's owning the action plan, who's going to sort this out, what are the steps, what's the time frame, how much more is this going to cost, and who's paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just painted that picture alone. You can understand that when there's lots of people involved because we've got a large program of work and we've got
Mm-hmm.
many people involved in each of the organizations that are involved, there's a lot of conversations that need to take place. And that's where I would spend a lot of time building trust and building rapport with each of the individuals or the key people, and being that conduit to explain what that means. So, here's the technical situation, but let me explain that to you in a language that you understand as an executive or a
Yeah.
stakeholder. Let me explain that to a finance person, what that really means. Let me talk to the business unit who are trying to transform the way they operate. They might be marketing or HR or people management, of which they don't understand the technical bit, and the project team
Mm-hmm.
can't speak in a language that they make sense because it's too highbrow. It doesn't make sense. You're talking too technical.
Mm-hmm.
There's a role to play there, and I spend a lot of time in that space, um, putting out the fires, but also identifying where the problems are as early as possible, so that because prevention is a very big part of all this, and
Mm-hmm.
identifying where the problems are and jumping on them, getting involved early and addressing them quickly so that they don't become something bigger than they need to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned you really talk in different, like in various languages. You're like everyone's
Yeah,
therapist.
I do. I do. And
Communication is key indeed.
look, communication's key, and getting
Mm-hmm.
everybody aligned is key as well. So, what do I have to tell you to make sure that you understand the part you're playing or the part that your company's playing or the challenge that we've got? And challenges happen all the time. You can have many situations that occur that you didn't predict, but
Mm-hmm.
it presents itself because these are organizations running businesses where there's something that you didn't expect, and it's a hiccup that you've got to deal with.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with it properly, it becomes a bigger problem. And good management is dealing with it at the time quickly. And even if you can't resolve it quickly because there needs to be some other involvement from other people, making them aware, explaining the problem so that they understand it, getting their involvement, their input, their decision, and then implementing that and being fluid and flexible in the way you're delivering programs. And what
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice is that I haven't said a thing on a technical level. This is all about people and being pragmatic and logistics and operations and getting it right and communication and alignment. It's all those skills, and that's everything that I do.
Uh-huh. So it I agree. The longer it takes in solving a problem or a challenge, the harder it is and the more complicated it could get, right? So
Yeah.
from your experience, Ashley, what do you think are the insights or perhaps the strategies that are very crucial for preventing and resolving conflicts in transformation programs?
Yeah. Look, I think there's some fundamentals, and I think I'll just hit on some key things. So I think preparation is a very big deal. there's got to be a lot of preparation involved, and
Mm-hmm.
every party that's involved needs to take the time to prepare whatever is on their plate, whatever's been given as their responsibility. So that's probably the first and most important thing. Um, I think that there needs to be a lot of conversations take place. So conversations means building trusted relationships, getting to understand how somebody works, how they think, how they talk, what they understand, and getting on their level. Strong leadership from a project team is very important. And it's not just the project leaders. Everyone has a role to play in delivering a successful program. And everybody needs to take responsibility for what that role is and be accountable for the part that they're playing. But they can
Of
all lead
course.
as well. So you can
Mm-hmm.
lead, you can have your project manager or director lead by example, but then you've got to lead as well in the part that you're playing, and not just sit back and just be an reactive to whatever the project team is asking you to do. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
take measures to be proactive and
Yeah,
know
proactive.
what's required and know that
Mm-hmm.
you're the expert in your area, and that's what you're being relied upon to make sure that things are successful. So I
Mm-hmm.
suppose that also incorporates accountability. So when you say you're going to do something, do it. When you give a timeline for something you're going to complete it in, get it done in that time. And if you're running late, call it out early, reset the timelines, reset the expectations. Don't just lose the accountability factor, which means that all of a sudden, when you're late, you say to someone, "Oh, sorry, I'm late." And
Yeah.
it's now going to be a week late because the fallout and the impact can be significant and it's not professional. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that that ties into having ownership. So, as a
Accountability.
yeah, and own what's yours, but also ownership. And this is actually an important point from a customer point of view, is it's not. So, if let's say that you've engaged a third party to deliver this program, the implementation partner, it's not their program that you've outsourced. It's still yours. Because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's your organization, it's your business, it's your
You're the
job.
one doing
This,
it. Mm-hmm.
that's right. You've engaged that organization to do the program for you, but that doesn't mean you hand over 100% of the ownership and say, not my problem, it's yours. And if it doesn't go well, it's all your fault. At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, if I was the customer, it's my program. I'm outsourcing the delivery of that program, but I need to stay involved. I need to take
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. I need to still own it. I need to make sure that it's implemented and change management and all those things that need to
Mm-hmm.
happen for it to be successful. We as the customer need to take ownership of the fact that of the success, and not just
Mm-hmm.
outsource the whole lot and say we're washing our hands of it and it's someone else's problem to be successful.
I agree. And I like what you also said that that preparation is a big deal, Ashley. It applies to almost everything. So your approach is both strategic and human centric. You now it makes a lot of sense now. That a little bit of prevention can save a lot of cure in the world of digital transformation. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, thank you so much, Ashley. For sure, a lot of our viewers would want to learn more about you and how they can learn from you, just like what I've been experiencing right now. To be honest, it doesn't just apply to those who are into SAP or using SAP. So, how can they
Yeah.
reach or get in touch with you, Ashley?
Oh, absolutely. So, firstly, I do work globally. I can get involved in any
So,
programs
anywhere
anywhere
in
in
the
the world,
world, wherever they
anywhere
are,
in the
they
world.
can benefit from your
Absolutely.
expertise.
Absolutely. And my suggestion is don't leave it too late. When you start to sense that there are some problems, then that's the time to get involved. And I get involved in situations from very early on when things are not
Mm-hmm.
quite right, and I can be involved for a short time or a long time. I can come in and out of the
Uh-huh.
situation.
Right
Every
away.
project is different. Absolutely. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Best way to get in touch is at my website, which is ashleysaltzman.com.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, people can People very often contact me through LinkedIn, through my profile, and you can connect with me there.
That's great, Ashley. Thank you so much. Today, I personally certainly learned a lot from you, Ashley, and I'm sure our viewers have too. Thank you for your time and wisdom. So, guys, Ashley is globally available for you. So check out his website, ashleysaltzman.com, or you can reach out to him on his LinkedIn account. I'm sure he's very responsive. Take it from me. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in and for your constant support. It's your enthusiasm that keeps us on air, bringing you insightful conversations like the one that we had today with Ashley Saltzman. This episode reminds us that when things get tough, just think, what would Ashley do? So until next time, this has been your host, Myles. Stay focused and inspired with Xraised.